I'm Michael Buser with the Biosystems and Agricultural Engineering Department at Oklahoma State University. In 2012, OSU developed the National Whole Chain Traceability Institute. This institute grew out of work focused on developing a whole chain traceability system for beef cattle. A core component of this system and the institute is working directly with stakeholders. In our opinion, stakeholder buy-in is critical for any whole chain traceability system. In working with our stakeholders, OSU developed a list of critical issues related to implementing a whole chain traceability system. Topping this list consistently is trust. When discussing the issue of trust with stakeholders generally want to know who will access my information, alter my information, or who may use or how will they use my information. Creating automatic trust in a product is impossible to do. Producers and suppliers are reluctant to give out their information to individuals that they do not know for fear of it being misused. However, we give out our credit card information, social security number, and banking information on nearly a daily basis. We are comfortable with giving others our personal information in this manner because we believe there are adequate safeguards and protections offered by the credit card industry, or we simply believe the convenience outweighs the risk. In general, trust related to product traceability can be broken down into: where are the databases stored? Who owns the data and how is the data accessed? Once data is entered into the database, can it be changed? What will others do with the data I put into the databases? And is the overall whole chain traceability system trustworthy? This list is in order of highest to lowest concern. In stakeholder discussions focused on where a whole chain traceability system would be housed, entities such as private firms, trade associations, federal agencies, state agencies, nonprofit organizations, and land-grant universities are often discussed. Federal and state agencies were almost always eliminated from these discussions. This elimination was due primarily to a lack of trust on many levels. Trade associations were eliminated next because housing a whole chain traceability system is well beyond the scope of most trade association missions. Trade associations will play a major role in helping develop traceability systems that are useful for their industries but will not have a managing role. Private firms, nonprofit organizations, and land-grant universities will generally rise to the top of most discussions. The primary issues identified with housing traceability systems at private firms are reliability, or will this firm be in operation 5 years from now, and cost over time. The primary issues with land-grant universities are the time required to get systems up and running and the potential Freedom of Information Act request. The discussions related to nonprofits overlap the private firm and land-grant university discussions. Who owns the data? How is data accessed? How can data be altered or changed? Were all primary considerations in OSU's development of their whole chain traceability system. The specific provisions of the NWCTI system include entities that enter information into the system own that information and control access to it. It doesn't matter if the owner is a producer, processor, retailer, or consumer. They are in full control of any information they input into the system. Those data owners control who can access the data and which pieces of data they can access. And once the data is entered into the system, it cannot be changed. It can only be amended. This is similar to how property records are managed. Addressing trust issues related to the quality of the data being entered into the system is a difficult question. For example, if I'm accessing information from the system, how do I know that the person entering the information put in truthful information? On the other hand, if I know that I've put in trustworthy information into the system, how do I know that the end user is going to use my data in the most appropriate method? Within our OSU whole chain traceability system, we plan to implement a rating system to deal with these trust issues. If you have an issue with an individual misusing your information or an issue with the quality of data being entered into the system, you would file a complaint with the system administrator. This approach is similar to what you would see with the Better Business Bureau. Further, stakeholders have suggested that we implement a third-party certification system. However, there are some issues with the third-party certification. The issues are cost, establishing the program, regulating the third-party certifiers, and determining if it adds monetary value to the system. Trust is a fundamental component of OSU's NWCTI stakeholder-driven whole chain traceability system.